Data Summit Middle East and Africa, brought to you by Lemnisk. I'm Subra Krishnan, CEO of Lemnisk, and I will be your host today. A quick word on Lemnisk before kicking off. Lemnisk's customer data platform-led personalization and marketing automation solution delivers superior customer experiences that result in increased conversions, retention, and growth for enterprises. The key capabilities include the ability to uniquely resolve a user in real time across different data sources and channels, creating one-to-one hyper-personalized experiences for each user across multiple marketing channels, and orchestrating individual customer journeys on the right channels at the right time using a proprietary inbuilt AI engine. Lemnisk has offices in Dubai, Singapore, Bangalore, and Boston. Lemnisk is ISO 27001 and ISO 27018 certified. For more information, please visit www.lemnisk.co. That's lemnisk.co. You can also email us at marketing@lemnisk.co if you're looking for CDP-driven marketing automation or personalization this year. Right, so that's the quick plug. That's done and dusted and behind us. So let's just get started with the afternoon's summit. So thank you once again. So today's Customer Data Summit is actually the second of 3 summits that we planned across Southeast Asia, Middle East, and India regions. We had our Singapore event earlier this month, and we have a very, very exciting session planned today as well. We put together this event focused on data-driven marketing, mainly because we are seeing a very strong trend in the MEA region among marketeers who are starting to understand and leverage the power of their customer data. I think it's also fair to say that as we slowly heal from the scars of COVID-19, being data and digital savvy is no longer a trend, but almost a survival mandate. So the speakers today actually represent some of the sharpest minds in the region who are at the forefront of this trend and are experts at harnessing data to transform their businesses. As a digital marketing enthusiast, I'm really, really looking forward to it. So a quick sort of summary of the events, the 3 sessions that we'll have today. So we'll kick off today's summit with a panel session titled The Rise of the Super Intelligent Marketer. Usama Zafar, who's the head of digital and direct marketing at Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. Mandeep Gulati, director of digital products and innovation and head of digital platforms at Rajhi Takaful. And Gaurav Chhaparwal, founder and CEO of Datahash, will talk about modern marketing ideas and principles and give you some terrific insights on how to extract and leverage data to drive business outcomes. I will introduce each of them in more detail ahead of the panel session, which will start in just a few minutes, right? Now, after this panel, in a session titled Technology-Driven Data Transformation, we will have Thomas Cherian, EVP Head of Technology Retail Banking at Mashreq Bank, talk about what it takes to craft and execute successful digital transformation strategy. Thomas has successfully brought together his passion across 2 domains, banking and technology, to lead digital transformation initiatives, and his views on disruptive technology trends and CX will be super insightful. The last session for this evening will feature a fireside chat with Banali Malhotra, Director Marketing at RAC Bank, one of Asia's most influential CMOs. She has been a relentless proponent of data-driven marketing for many years now, and her views on transformative MarTech leadership will be a session you can't afford to miss either. So yeah, so there you have it. What a fantastic afternoon ahead. I hope all of you are excited. Just a couple of quick administrative points. We will stay on time, so we are going to start off right away, and we don't really expect delays beyond a few minutes. So yeah, grab your popcorn and stay glued to the sessions as we kick off now. Wonderful. So let's start off with our first event for the day. So succeeding with modern marketing actually requires a combination of out-of-the-box thinking, creativity, and a strong analytical bent of mind, I would say, right? And our panelists today are eminent industry leaders who have demonstrated all of these skills many times over in their careers. So let me introduce them without further ado. Our first speaker for today is Usama Zafar. Usama is the head of digital marketing, CVM, and analytics at Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. He's a marketing leader with deep experience in business planning, media planning, performance marketing, data analytics, user experience design, funnel optimization, and growth hacking. Usama has worked and collaborated with some of the best companies in the world, such as Amazon, Etihad, Noon.com, Tesla, Nissan, Facebook, Google, Coca-Cola, Zomato, etc. And he has substantial experience in integrating online and offline channels that has delivered over 4x ROI and over $1 billion in annual sales. Welcome, Usama. Our next speaker is Mandeep Gulati. Mandeep is the Director of Digital Products and Innovation Insurance at Rajhi Takaful, Saudi Arabia. He has over 15 years of experience in digital marketing and technology, playing myriad roles as a digital marketer, developer, brand custodian, online business lead, and product head. Mandeep has previously worked in companies such as eBay, Reliance, Jio, Times Internet, Aegon, and IBBO. He's an avid fan of Hindi and Punjabi music and loves to read everything about history, human behavior, and future technologies. His success mantra in life is listen, lead, learn. And we round off our elite panel today with Gaurav Chhaparwal. Gaurav is an ex-head of marketing analytics at Emirates and having played a vital role in high-growth, new-age e-commerce companies like Souq.com, which is now Amazon, Snapdeal, and Make My Trip as part of their senior management. Gaurav has now set out on a new journey with Datahash, where his mission is to guide the business and customer experience strategies using data-driven insights. Gaurav has an educational background in both engineering and business with some of the most prestigious institutes in India, namely IIT Kanpur and IIM Calcutta. Usama, Mandeep, and Gaurav, a very, very warm welcome to the panel, Rise of the Super Intelligent Marketer. Very, very warm welcome to all three of you.
Thank you, Subra, for the warm welcome.
Great.
Thank you, Subra.
So let me start by asking you a very, very foundational question. Maybe Usama, you could sort of kick off here. What stands out when we think of modern marketing is really the ability to effectively collect and organize and then sort of subsequently use customer data, right? So I would like to begin by asking you, what kind of insights do you try to extract and leverage from customer data, and sort of how do you use this to derive sort of business outcomes? If you could just kickstart there, and I'll go around.
I think when it comes to the kind of data that we're all looking for as marketers, whether it's traditional or it's, the new, what we call digital face of marketing, I think it boils down to two things really. One is who, as in which sub-segment and micro-segment, as we say, are we looking for? And then, at what moment, and Google calls it micro moment. Some people call it event-based marketing, but it's really marketing down to that segment of one customer at the right juncture that most of our, I think direct response or performance-related efforts are now focused on. And then, a close second, which is, in the age of personalization has become very important. And, which has been a game changer in the industry. Earlier, if you were good at math, you had a very good chance of being a very good search marketer or an SEO expert. But now with this art of communicating the right content and developing that emotional connect, it's become so important. It's really life and death when it comes to cost per acquisition and starting at cost per click.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I think essentially you're saying try to understand the who and the when, and then try to boil it down to a customer segment of one, and then work your way from there. Mandeep, if you could jump in here, that would be great as well.
See, honestly, about 3 or 4 years back, what we were trying to do is that we were trying to create micro segments, getting a lot of information from what we were getting from our campaigns, things like CTR, CPCs, all those metric and all, right? And about 4 years back, 3 years back, the data that we were collecting was pretty small. I mean, it was easy for us to analyze it with our naked eyes, right? Put it on an Excel, see the results, you'll know where the leakages are and you'll correct things, right? What has happened in the last couple of years and all, and I mean, is that the amount of data that we all of us have started collecting, right? And the kind of interactions customers are having with your platforms now, be it on your mobile apps, on your websites, etc. And coming of age of technologies like CDP, yeah, DMPs and all. With so much data coming to us, right? It's impossible for us to now any longer say that, okay, this is one data point or data analysis I look at and I'll form my insights. There is no point doing that. My suggestion to marketers is that leave it to the machines, leave it to the experts. And taking away from where Osama, left, it's best for us to not intervene with what the system wants to decide. We can't compete with artificial intelligence. Those are my 2 cents, man.
So I will hold you to that, because I do want to grill all of you folks on machine learning and intelligence as well. But I want to give Gaurav sort of a chance to jump in here as well. So Gaurav, first of all, congrats on your new stint. I know you're now on the other side of the table after sort of being on the customer sides, and I know you have really sort of worked in this space very closely as well. So chime in with your views here. Do you agree with Usama and Mandeep?
Yeah, I think they're bang on the point that the insights have to go really micro now, and those are one set of insights that marketers truly need to understand. So when I say micro insights, they would typically refer to who, as in which customer or customer segment, like a as small a segment as you can have, which product, which what time of communication, like when, as Osama said, right? So all those are micro decisions, and those can be left to no humans cannot possibly even make those decisions, because if you're a sizable business, I mean, unlike you and I who are like in a B2B business now, the B2C businesses which are like catering to customers have hundreds of thousands to millions to several hundreds of millions of customers, and no human, possibly sets of human sitting, can be making those decisions. But at the same time, there is also a set of what I call macro decisions, which is the which have traditionally been the old school Excel based decisions in terms of which channel is doing well as compared to others. Search versus display versus say organic marketing channels like email or push notification, etc., and so on. So in terms of the which category or should be pushed, or what level of marketing investments as a percentage of GMV in terms of business model could be invested, etc. Those macro decisions also need to be more and more data driven. So they have been Excel data driven to an extent, but I think the maturity of those decisions is evolving with things like multi-touch attribution, right? So being able to understand when you are spending across multiple channels, not just using your last click attribution in terms of the understanding which channel really got you the customer or conversion, but giving like all channels a fair due of their contribution to the goal or conversion, right? So those are the two kinds of decision we need to think about, or insights we need to think about. There is the micro decisions that Usama and Mandeep referred to, and then there are macro decisions, and there also I'm not saying it's humans eventually taking it, but humans, it's almost like the Terminator, right? So it is not the Terminator that wins. It is the combination, which is a human along with a good machine, is what the winning combination is, right? So that's what I think in both sides, micro and macro decisions, we should be doing.
Absolutely.
Osama has something to add.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, a good analogy you used there, Gaurav, of the Terminator. I've always had a problem with that movie. That such an advanced robot still is going around with a picture and looking for the guy, right? so, so, and that there are some parallels we can draw in today's world of AI driven marketing. You can get your models made. We do that. We run about, I don't know, 420 micro campaigns. So and those are on the back of different models that we run for different purposes. That's where the whole customer value management, life cycle management comes in. But at the end of the day, there are some decisions when it comes to especially testing different content types that are key, right? So remember, your targeting only gets you thus far. It tells you who to talk to and what to talk. But when it comes to the emotional connect, especially in this part of the world, right, where you have such a different mixed bag of nationalities, where not only do you have an Arabic speaking audience, you have an Arabic speaking audience of 22 countries, where one word can have 22 different meanings, right? So end of the day, still needs some human intervention, especially on telling the right story, having that emotional connect as a brand. Today's brand more and more is about what you stand for rather than what you sell, right? So those values need to be communicated in your content as well.
That's a very interesting perspective you bring in, because I think but and that perspective is what I'll sort of dive into next, which is when you bring in creative, how does that play along with machine learning? But just for the audience, I do want to very quickly summarize the views, and I think I'm going to just steal your framework there, Gaurav. I love the framework that you use to sort of bring everything together that Usama and Mandeep said, which is, I think ultimately when you think about organizing and using data, you should look at it as a set of micro decisions that you want to make, and macro. Micro involves really understanding every aspect of what what the user is looking for. Who is this user? What products, when, and so on and so forth. And being able to do that at scale, and being able to organize that effectively, and then sort of step back and really look at the macro picture in terms of, okay, for those kinds of audiences, what is working, what is not, right? And so I think you brought a very interesting angle there towards the end, which is the angle of you don't like Terminator because there is obviously an element of creativity involved. So let me sort of, and I think that brings me really to the next question, which is no conversation today on intelligent marketing is really complete without a reference, which has already started, I see, with Mandeep, to machine learning and AI. So therefore, two parts to my question. And you started talking about it. What's been your experience with machine learning? And is there really a right time to consider it? Because I've heard in many cases, customers tell me, okay, I've got a lot other low-hanging fruits that I can really pick and choose from. So I just want to sort of, and lastly, how does it interplay with creativity, which I think you touched upon already?
Okay, so I think we've been using data modeling of some form. It may not have been AI driven, it may have been rule-based engines since 2009 in the bank that I work for, Dhabi Islamic Bank. And what we have seen is it depends on the volume, of course, the veracity of the data, and number two, as far as I can tell you, I don't see a use case which goes beyond machine learning, into deep learning and AI in a commercial application yet. So I would say it depends on the complexity of the data and the multiple systems you're using and how real time they are. Because in some cases, it has to be real time, right? And for others, even a 2-week delay is fine. So what we've seen is that obviously the more you integrate, the more you bring into your data lake, the more ROI you see, and it's always a build to operate kind of model. So evolution, not necessarily revolution. That's been our experience so far.
Wonderful. And so Mandeep, I am now going to bring you in and say, I think you were very clear. Leave it to the machines. That's what you said, right? So what's been your experience of using using AI, and sort of what are some of the outcomes that you've been able to get?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Subra, on the marketing side, we have been running propensity models on our search campaigns, on our display campaigns for a long time now, right? And they're purely all machine based. We once we set them, we leave it. For example, my experience with e-commerce, with insurance, we set up those shopping campaigns or PLA campaigns. We set up the propensity model segments and all, and we let the machines move products across bids or keywords across bids, depending on which category you are looking at. In my current portfolio, to be honest, I am betting a lot on machine learning, right? Because we are planning to now introduce telematics into this scheme of things, right? Into pricing insurance. Which means you have to record driving data of millions of customers, right? And then price insurance for them. Something like this definitely cannot be done by an underwriter or a team of underwriters sitting somewhere in the office. This has to be brought into a machine learning system so that we can analyze driver behavior, etc., 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 and then price the insurance and risk according to that. Insurance specifically has a lot of use cases, like even for claim frauds and all. we are already using it. A lot of insurers are using it. We are also using it. You click a picture of a car, damage and all. We'll assess whether your images are correct, accurate. All of that is done by machines. It's not done by humans anymore because the volumes are huge, like Usama said. Okay, so there are marketing. I don't know, not very earth-shattering cases in marketing, but a lot of earth-shattering cases or big cases in other domains.
Yeah, you touched upon other domains, and Gaurav, I know. So two things I want to ask you. One is, I think you obviously spend a lot of time on the e-commerce side. So I do want you to touch upon some of the things that the audience might be interested in, like, for example, the recommendations algorithm, for example, product recommendations. If you could maybe touch upon that and any other use cases that you've seen of machine learning, number one. And number two, I think in your new role now at Datahash, I'm sure you now speak to a spectrum of customers with different levels of maturity. So I think your advice on how to really look at AI for somebody, let's say, who's just at the start of digital transformation. So maybe if you could just touch upon those 2 points, that would be great.
Okay. So taking the first question, in terms of recommendation engine, and I still remember the first recommendation engine that I wrote at Snapdeal. This was about 9 years ago, and recommendation engines were not like available out of the box to an extent that they were not productized a lot. And all these words Hadoop and Mahout, etc., were just about kind of becoming the buzzwords at that stage. And what has happened over the last couple of years is a good portion of this intelligence is getting productized, right? So you can certainly use a lot of homegrown intelligence depending on what kind of use cases you have. At the same time, there is a lot that's available in products as well. So there is a very clear decision of build versus buy that you have to make. It depends on, I would say, two factors. One is, and I think data scientists are, the most like coveted. And there is also this joke about like who's a real data scientist versus, the wannabe data scientist, right? So people who are able to really kind of bring that data into actual business use cases, because the gap here is this: there is a set of academicians or people who are brilliant PhDs who can write beautiful recommendation engines and algorithms, but they cannot somehow bring it to light of the day in a website or in a business use case. Then the other hand is business people who do not have any clue of what statistical significance means, what lift means, and they are running these data science operations where they have absolutely no idea. They just say, okay, somehow put a recommendation engine, call it data science, and I'm good, right? So all the snake oil stuff out there as well. So I would say, I think it is important to understand whether you have the right set of data scientists or the business leaders who understand data well enough to be able to make this a reality in your organization. And then if not, or then you are better off trying to at least gauge what products can do for you, and then move towards products, right? So that's the how, I mean, recommendation engines. I would say for any organization, whether it's e-commerce or even insurance or BFSI sector or many of the sectors, right? So that's the first aspect. The second aspect about your question about how the different I call analytics maturity stages, right? So people are at different stages of maturity in terms of not just their analytics also, but also in terms of the size of the business, etc. What is important is, if you are at a relatively early stage, I would rather not suggest going into the most complex use cases of AI or machine learning. As one of my previous managers used to say, let's focus on doing basics brilliantly. So that's the key for relatively less mature organizations. Not get caught in the hype. Focus on the basics, but do them brilliantly well. And that's where the use of AI comes in simple use cases which are like heartwarming or value adding to users, rather than the most hyped use cases and most complex ones, because the return on investment will not be either very high, or you are basically penny wise pound foolish, right? So what's important is you focus on the big blocks and the basics first, And then as your organization matures, as your analytics maturity increases, then pick up more advanced use cases. But most people kind of get caught into the hype because somehow there are these check boxes and organizational visibilities that people want to create. I think we'll have to figure a way to kind of move out of those.
Yeah, that's such an important point you bring up, because I have seen, and I work with the broad spectrum of data scientists, and one of the things I've consistently seen is that the really sort of incredibly insightful data scientists are always able to take a step back and say, you don't need a fancy algorithm for this. I'll just get it done for you in Excel. Right. And to be able to have that sort of a mindset where you don't necessarily boil the ocean or sort of try to fit, make every problem a nail because you have a hammer. And I think that is such an important thing. And in doing that, if you can keep it, do the basics brilliantly, like you rightly said, I think that's a very, very good way of looking at it. Usama, I think you wanted to chime in there around the time when he was talking about data scientists as well. So yeah, please do jump in here.
Yeah, so yeah. Firstly, I totally agree. Not every problem is something that needs deep learning and things to solve. But I think if you're starting your journey, look at your customer life cycle, right? So like in banking, we would look at starting from acquiring relationships. How can I improve my acquisition? And sometimes the answer might even be outside your organization, right? So today, Google and Facebook give you these beautiful services called customer match and custom audiences, which let you, upload an audience, and then they can run their own algorithms and find you the lookalikes. And then you move on to, onboarding the customers. Then you're talking about cases for activation, migration, onboarding, activation of digital channels. If your acquiring channel is not a digital channel today, right? Because most of the acquisition is also happening digitally. And then you're talking about the other, value management in terms of getting the next best product or offer. Or Mandeep is probably the guru of this, this recommendation part. And then for us in banks, there is attrition which needs to be managed. But before attrition, there is something called silent attrition, which is in many ways a bigger killer than attrition, because when you try to at least close your account, we don't have to maintain it. Yeah. Whereas in silent attrition, you just reduce the size of your whatever card spend or deposit, and then we're stuck with you with maintaining something which isn't really generating ROI. Similarly, there is a certain value around the customer's lifetime value, sorry, yeah, that needs to be highlighted, especially for larger organizations, because with the increasing competition, like I can talk about banks, there is a certain pressure on getting salary relationships, right? And there's only so many in the market, right? And there is a certain that sort of feeds the life cycle, right? So you should be able to estimate that funnel, that okay, if I get these many, how many will I be able to retain?
Yeah.
And then move on. That's on the macro view that Gaurav keeps talking about, and then obviously the micro view comes in where you're talking about the event based marketing signals. You can easily prioritize these by economic value and start with the ones which are simplest to do it. If nothing, you don't have a lot of it is the execution, right? So you don't have to wait for a fancy CRM integration. Yeah. If you can load up all of these on an internet where you just enter the customer ID and the frontliner can see it, do it.
Yes,
we've done that in the past and it's worked.
Yeah. That's a very.
Your frontline is waiting to sell, and the more you can aid them, the better it is for you.
Absolutely. I think action over analysis, basically. Mandeep, you've obviously, I think, worked deeply now in two different markets, right? Both India and Middle East. Sort of, in any sort of thoughts with respect to data-driven marketing and the use of machine learning across these markets that you've seen?
Do you want me to talk about differences or use cases? What do you want me to talk about?
No, I think just in terms of relative levels of maturity and potentially even in sort of while you giving examples of use cases.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I was not expecting this market to be digitally so advanced, to be honest, when I joined in. Okay, and I was pleasantly surprised when I joined here, especially in the insurance domain, the kind of data that is available, right, which we struggled with in India. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the largest markets, all of that said and done, India stack and all. But I mean, trust me, the way this region is running and the kind of digitization they have and the kind of services that the government is providing to the private companies.
Yeah.
I mean, the only difference that it'll be very quick for this market to be one of the best markets in terms of and challenge Southeast Asia and China, right? It'll be easier for this market to do that very easily. Just one thing, there is definitely a dearth of talent. Okay, and we need to get the right people. We need to train them. We need to keep them on the job, and that's one thing that if this market succeeds in doing, they can easily beat the best in terms of digital space.
Wonderful.
Right,
That's
all domains.
very astute observation, I would say. Yeah. We have time to throw in one fun question, which I would love to sort of throw at you. I think we're obviously, coming out of the pandemic, we're also starting a fresh decade, so to speak. And I think obviously last decade was explosive in terms of, the sort of usage of data and just the general availability and the cost of analysis, right? So what's your one big, bold prediction for the coming for the coming decade, on how data-driven marketing is going to evolve? I will start with Gaurav and then work my way to Mandeep and Usama. You're on mute, Gaurav.
Second time in a session. Okay. So the next 10 years are going to be interesting from a different perspective. I think the last, we have been talking about data-driven marketing. I think I would say we'll start becoming more and more insight-driven marketing. And I'll qualify what the difference really is. All this, we marketers have been a bit greedy, and we have kind of went ahead and captured every single bit, right? So every click you have done, every product you have viewed, every email you have seen, etc., and so on, right? And then there has been a backlash about privacy, saying, okay, even if it is just machines who are possibly seeing all this data, why is this data being, why is every move of mine being monitored and captured and possibly for somebody to see? What we are seeing already is a shifting of gears, and if you would have noticed, Google has recently announced something called federated learning of cohorts, FLOC. Apple has announced something called SK ad network, right?
Yes.
So which basically, so these tools, the way they are thinking of is they are not reaching out to they are keeping privacy intact. They are basically allowing the privacy of the customers to be have its sanctity. At the same time, being able to bring out the traits, being able to understand the gist of the user. And we like to think we are more individual than we really are. Like we are more different than we think. In reality, if you think about it, if just 10 unique variables with 10 values each, right? Not a big deal. I mean, 10 variables, 10 values each is more than the entire human population put together, right? Yeah. So technically, you can have all the individuality you imagine the end customers to have, but be described by just 10 variables and the 10 distinct values of those. Now, I think what we are evolving into is basically those understanding of those insights rather than individuals, and hence get into insight-driven marketing. So privacy will kind of have a pushback, and then I think that's how we will the data-driven marketing will evolve in the next 10 years.
Yeah, fantastic. I couldn't agree with you more on this. And I think that's definitely a trend that we've started already seeing with FLOC and other frameworks coming in. Usama, to you next. Your one big bold prediction for the decade ahead.
I think it'll get interesting with new channels being added. So outdoor has been quite a quagmire for us so far. And I think with the new tools that come in, you'll see more and more measurement coming for outdoor media advertising. And I will this and you know I can't speak for the entire market, but I can definitely say for the financial services market in the UAE, Saudi, and Egypt, you'll see marketing divisions become more of a profits, more profit centers
Yeah.
rather than a cost center type approach. Which means yes, as a marketer, your life will change. You'll get a variable income. That's the personal side of it. But on the professional side, it would mean that a lot more future decisions will be taken by CMOs. And I think and the third prediction is there will be a certain amount of sensitization because there's a lot happening in terms of digital transformation. And then at least this region will, I think, sort of reach where UK is right now, where they're now seeing how much of human interaction do we need to bring back into the system.
Yeah. I think valid observations. In fact, when you spoke of outdoors, one of the trends that at least I'm actively tracking and I'm personally passionate about is addressable TV. And I think as more and more TV sort of goes to devices, that's I think the ability to target users on TV in a much more relevant fashion is, I think, definitely going to pick up. But yeah, agree with all your things. Mandeep, over to you. You are on mute, so I guess you'll have to go unmute and then your big sort of prediction.
I think CDP will become big and Lemnisk will have some share of the business. You wanted a fun prediction, and I think no. But Subra, I mean that's the fun prediction that I have. But what's your prediction? You are the thought leader of the industry. I like to hear it from you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would go with addressable TV, as I said. You put me on the spot here, but I think that's one big trend that I would definitely encourage everybody to start looking at because there is a very, very sort of distinct shift in TV viewing behavior or sort of screen viewing behavior in general, right? With more and more people moving towards Netflix, to Amazon Prime, and so on and so forth, right? And I think that fundamentally means that the advertiser's ability to stop looking at a regional sort of level ads to sort of really start looking at smaller micro segments and be able to drive relevant sort of messaging, marketing on TV is interesting. And I think that's probably the one big trend that I would call it. Yeah. So wonderful.
Nice. Thanks, Subra.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, gentlemen. I think this was just sort of reaching the end of the 30-minute mark here. So this was an incredibly insightful session. Thank you really for taking the time out. I enjoyed speaking with you, and I'm sure the audience got a lot of valuable takeaways. So thanks a lot for joining today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Subra. Thanks, Gaurav. Nice meeting you again. Thanks, Usama.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, everyone else, for coming.